Last week you saw the back-to-school notebook buyer's guide. This week you will see the back-to-school tablet buyer's guide, because not everyone needs a full-size device for random note-taking, internet access, and all those things, and particularly for e-textbooks, laptops can be maybe a little bit cumbersome compared to something like a tablet. Now, we had some complaints on last week's guide that we did not include any Apple devices, so we've taken all those complaints and addressed them completely. This week, we have both the iPad mini and the full-size iPad 4th Gen with Retina display to compare against the other options that are available. So aside from the whole e-textbooks thing, why would you want a tablet for school? I can think of a few different reasons. Number one is ultimate portability. They're going to be thinner than even the very thinnest laptops can possibly be. Number two is battery life. Because they use much lower powered components, tablets do offer better battery life than even the most aggressively battery-lifed notebooks. Last but not least, because they are mobile-optimized platforms, they're great for things like playing games on the bus on your way to school, in addition to the more serious work that you can do on them. Now, the obvious drawback is typing. Typing on a touchscreen is not a great experience compared to typing on a keyboard. However, there are some pretty decent options out there in terms of Bluetooth keyboards that you can hook up to your tablet for a better note-taking experience. We should start with a brief outline of the different platforms that are available when it comes to tablets. So there's iOS, Android, and Windows as your main contenders. And starting with iOS, the advantages are going to be the extremely mature App Store with many high-quality apps to choose from, with the caveat being that they are often more expensive than there are alternatives on the Windows Store as well as the Google Play Store. And the other real drawback I'd say there is for iOS is the fact that there is no real integration with something like a mouse input, for example. You pretty much use it as a touchscreen tablet, and that's all. It's got a bit of a dated-looking interface at this point, but that should all change with the upcoming release of iOS 7. Next up, we've got Android, which is the tweaker's Paradise OS. If you want to be able to make changes to your device and you want to be able to access it at a more hardware level as opposed to relying on the software vendor to decide how you should use your device, Android is probably the solution for you. The Google Play Store is extremely mature and often has lower priced alternatives compared to the Apple App Store. However, sometimes the functionality isn't quite up to par with the Apple apps from my personal experience. Next up, we've got what I guess you could call the new kid on the block, and that is Windows. Windows has the advantages that you would expect from Windows sometimes. So Windows RT runs on the ARM architecture, so you don't get backwards compatibility with x86 applications like you would if you were running a full version of Windows 8, although those kinds of tablets are available as well. But what you do get is you get an interface that you're used to, that is the Windows desktop interface. In addition to the Windows Modern UI, which is their tablet-optimized touch interface, you get excellent support for things like mouse input, which not supported at all on iOS, kind of half-heartedly supported on Android, and it kind of works, but sometimes doesn't. So you get full support for mouse input, and last but not least, this could be very important to students out there, you get support for Microsoft Office, which is actually included as a full version if you get a Windows RT tablet, which is the ARM version, but you will have to buy extra unless your tablet manufacturer throws it in if you get the Windows 8 version. So starting with the larger options, let's kick things off with the iPad 4. It has a 9.7-inch display that runs at a massive 2048 by 1536 resolution, making text extremely sharp and less fatiguing on the eyes for long periods of time, like say, for example, when you're reading through a textbook or something like that. It has a pretty average weight these days, so the iPad is around 1.5 pounds, but it has excellent battery life, and of course that screen is not only high resolution, but also very, very good looking. It's available in a variety of storage configurations, anywhere from 16 to 128 gigs. However, aside from buying more iCloud storage or buying more storage from Dropbox or wherever else, yeah, that's pretty much it. You can't really expand it. So let's move on to the Modders OS. This is Android. This is the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1, which has, as you might have figured out, a 10.1-inch display that runs at 1280 by 800 resolution. So it's a lower res. However, it's still going to be fine for watching HD movies, so that's 720p, and it looks all right when it comes to reading text, however, not quite as crisp as a Retina display from the likes of Apple or a higher resolution display in general. What's cool about this device is that it has an IR blaster, so you can use it to control your TV or other electronics, not only Samsung brand electronics, but also other ones. And because it's Android and because it's more flexible, you can get it not only in anywhere from a 16 gig to 32 gig configuration, but you can also expand it with the built-in micro SD slot, so you can add more storage that way. Next up, we've got the Vivo Tab Smart, and this one's kind of unique because it runs a full-fledged Windows 8, so you have, even though there's the less mature Windows Store to add apps to the modern UI, you have that enormous back catalog of Windows-compatible applications that you can install on this particular tablet. It only comes in one storage configuration, which is 64 gigs for the Windows 8 Smart version. So that means that's kind of it, but it comes with 32 gigs of web storage from ASUS built in for 3 years. And it also comes with microSD expansion, so you have a ton of flexibility on that side of things as well. Let's move on to the portable tablets. Of course, they're all portable, but these are even more portable, 7 and 8-inch class devices. Starting with the iPad mini, which also has a Retina display like its big brother, but it's a lot less impressive this time around because at 1024 by 768, that's actually lower res than both of the other two options here, the Samsung Note 8 and the ASUS, Google, whatever you want to call it, Nexus 7. So 1024 by 768, 1280 by 800, and boom, 1920 by 1200 on the new Nexus 7, which is a mind-boggling 323 pixels per inch. Now, the iPad mini is about the same weight as the Nexus 7, about the same size. So other than if you prefer iOS versus Android, it doesn't really have that much going for it. Speaking of things that have things going for them, the Note 8 from Samsung is a very interesting option here because it's a little bit bigger, so it's 8-inch if you find 7-inch a bit small. It has a built-in IR blaster, so you can control your devices, and it has a built-in stylus with a digitizer. So that means if taking notes using a keyboard is not your thing, so to speak, and if you're buying a tablet, it just might not be, you can use the built-in stylus to take notes and then keep them in a digital format using S-Note or any other supported application, and that may be a great option for you. It's available in anywhere from a 16 to 32 gig configuration, and it does have micro SD for expansion. Last up, we have the Nexus 7. So in this one, I'd say the biggest thing going for it, or the two biggest things going for it, are its massive 1920 by 1200 display, extremely crisp looking, great viewing angles, and of course, because it's a Nexus device, advantage number 2 is it gets the latest Android updates like that. You're always going to get faster updates on a Nexus device versus anything else, so you get that vanilla Android experience and always the latest vanilla Android experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this tablet buyer's guide. Feel free to let us know if there's anything that you would have liked to see this time around, or if there are any NCIX Tech Tips buyer's guides that you'd like to see. I know something we didn't talk about much was cellular data on these types of devices. Here in Canada, it does tend to be quite expensive. However, many of the options you see here are available with 3G or 4G LTE options if you are willing to pay for a data plan that accommodates that particular feature. However, it varies wildly region by region, so it's not something that we wanted to get too far into. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos from ncix.com.